Bobby does not like personal questions. He won't talk about his religion. He was born a Jew, now he is a fundamentalist. Nor will he talk about his relatives. His father left when Bobby was 2. He never sees his mother nor his sister. No girls in his life. He claims he hasn't time for them.
It cannot be argued that Bobby Fischer is not a very controversial figure.
We spent Bobby's 29th birthday with him at Grossinger's. He came alone, no family, no friends. At the table with him, little Louis Cohen. And Bobby disdained the cake that we had ordered for him. Happy birthday to you. You were worrying about this? Why were you worrying about it?
You know, I just don't go. First of all, I don't eat this kind of cake. Second of all, I'll go for these.
All right. Should we take it away, please?
All right.
His only constant companion is the big red book of Spassky.
But one day, he said one thing. What he said could not be compared to anything he has said before because he completely crossed his line. It was early in the 90s during an interview. Bobby Fischer was thrown a question by the host. Rather than keeping short or admit he knew nothing about it, he gave a response that made the blood of the chess world boil. If you are standing, you might want to sit down for this one. It is sad I'm reporting this because Fischer was a genius on the board, but his words off the board, especially this particular one, was anything but brilliant.
Do you enjoy playing this game? No, I've never played a woman in a tournament game. Would you call yourself a misogynist? Excuse me, what's the definition of a woman hater? No. No? Mm-mm. What do you think of women? When it comes to chess, not too much. What about other outside chess? Well, I don't think they should mess in intellectual affairs, you know what I mean? They should keep strictly to the home. The women's place is over the hot stove. No, they can't cook, but they stay in the house cleaning and things. Well, what can they do? Well, you know. They should just be at home, waiting for the man to come home.
After I watched this video, I'm still wondering how he was allowed to leave the hall without being schooled for his nasty comments. His sexist remark beats like a venomous snake, injecting a toxic dose of self-doubt and marginalization. They were like multiple slaps in the face, leaving not just women chess players, but women in general to feel shocked, hurt, and disrespected. It was not even about the cockiness or confidence that came with the comments. What's particularly disheartening about this word is that beneath those controversial claims, a painful fact lingered. Even though these words were vicious, nothing about the chess women played could be used to counter Fischer's vicious words. In fact, if we judged women's wit only based on the level of play that time, one could argue calling women unintelligent or any of those words Bobby Fischer used would be a huge understatement because women really played badly. For this ugly reason, no one could convincingly make a case for women. Those hurtful comments hung over the chess world like a dark, foreboding cloud, unchallenged and unsettling, casting a shadow of discomfort and unease over the entire chess community. This situation remained this way until a thunder struck in Budapest, Hungary on the 23rd of July 1976. It proved to debunk all the stereotype about women in chess. The metaphorical thunder was not a natural phenomenon. It was the culmination of a father's relentless pursuit. The man in question was László Polgár, a man obsessed with debunking the myth that talent is innate. He believed that hard work and dedication, regardless of any factor, gender inclusive, can make anyone great, and that talent is not an existent concept. Even though he was confident in his idea, he was not prepared for the fierce resistance, forcing him to confront the darkest corners of societal bias and even his own doubts. László Polgár's first attempt to prove his revolutionary idea that greatness is not born but made, and that with dedicated practice any healthy child could become a genius, was in 1960. When he proposed it, he thought it was something everyone would welcome, but it was met with ridicule and skepticism. To make matters worse, a government official even suggested he should see a psychiatrist to cure his delusion. Even his family members doubted his vision, claiming he was biting more than he could chew. His wife, Clara, was his only ally, but even she struggled to see the end goal, but followed him reluctantly. Seeing there was no support from anyone, Polgar was undeterred and decided to put his theory to the ultimate test on his own children, and this was where it got tricky. He found himself at a crossroad, risking everything for a dream that might never come true and potentially destroying the lives of his daughters. The stakes were now higher than ever, and the consequences of failure would be devastating. Their first daughter, Susan, was born in 1969, and she would be the first guinea pig for Polgar's groundbreaking theory. Polgar knew that to prove his point, Susan's achievement had to be nothing short of spectacular. He needed to silence the critics and shatter the myth of innate talent. But the problem of what discipline to train the child on soon arose. If his daughter was trained to be a musician, it might be hard because music is subjective. The same thing for art or literature. After careful consideration on various endeavors, Polgar settled for chess because it was a discipline objective and only relied largely on intellect. But as Susan grew older, it was kind of harder training her. Just as things were starting to look up, disaster struck. There were concerns she was just a child and the endless hours of chess practice could take a toll on her young mind, and he even worried that she might resist training or not pick interest in his experiment. Polgar began to wonder on the what ifs. What if Susan suffers a crushing defeat in her first major tournament? What if she loses to a boy? The critics would be quick to pounce, declaring his theory a failure, and the government might even call him in for questioning because rather than enrolling his child to school, she was playing chess all day. Despite these dark thoughts, he refused to give up. He redoubled his efforts, pouring all his energy into Susan's training. As Susan prepared to make her tournament debut, her father's anxiety reached a boiling point. He has staked everything on his daughter's success, their reputation, their livelihood, and Susan's future. So on the day Susan was going to play her first tournament, the weight of her father's grumble crushed down on him. He had risked everything for this moment, and the fear of failure threatened to consume him. But it was only for a moment because Susan soon began to win and win big even against players 2 years above her. She annihilated her opponents one by one until she stood alone as the champion. The crowd was stunned and the critics were silenced. People who did not know the backstory were quick to whisper Susan's natural talent for chess. But Polgar knew the truth, that dedicated practice and hard work had created the child prodigy. As for individuals that knew the background and Polgar's experiment, rather than conceding, they still found a way to question if Susan was good because of her training or it was just a fluke. They posed a very valid question. Even if she had been trained since she was a child, how could Polgar even prove that Susan did not have natural talent for chess? They were willing to die on the hill that Susan was a great player because she had innate chess talent, which was even the reason she yielded to all the training she got on chess when she was young. Amidst all of this back and forth, something was certain in Polgar's mind, that his quest to prove his theory was far from over. For this reason, Polgar had another daughter, Sophia. He was determined to prove that his theory was no fluke. The stakes were higher than ever. Could Polgar repeat his success with his new daughter, or would his theory be exposed as a one-time wonder? The world watched with bated breath as Polgar's sister took the chess world by storm. His second daughter, Sophia, was eager to join her older sister in the world of chess. Sophia watched in awe as her father trained Susan, and she couldn't wait to get involved. When Sophia turned 5, Polgar began her training, and the sisters embarked on an incredible journey. By the time they reached adolescence, they had accumulated an astonishing 7,000 hours of specialized practice. The results were nothing short of phenomenal. At just 12 years old, Susan became the world champion for girls under 16. Less than 2 years later, she was the top-rated female player in the world. And to make matters even more amazing, in 1991, she made history by becoming the first woman to achieve the prestigious title of Grandmaster through a full set of standard norms based on performance rating. But Susan's achievement did not stop there. By the end of her career, she had won the World Championship for Women 4 times and the 5 Chess Olympiad, cementing her status as the first person to win the coveted chess triple crown. Sophia's glory did not stop there as well. She won the Girls Under 14 Championship and went on to claim numerous gold medals in chess Olympiads and other prestigious tournaments. But her most remarkable achievement was the infamous sack of Rome, when she stunned the chess world by winning 8 consecutive games against some of the best grandmasters. all at the tender age of 14. Her performance at that tournament was rated as the 5th greatest in chess history, leaving the chess community in awe of the Polgar sisters' incredible talent and dedication. Just when we thought that was all from the family, Polgar did not back down. It was as if he saved the last because it was the best. The third sister, Judit, was nothing like the two previous sisters. What made Judith's story stand out from others was that she announced herself into the scene the biggest way possible. It was in the 70s and 80s, a period many opined to be the peak of chess. All attention was towards great players like Russian grandmasters like Spassky, Karpov, Kasparov, and all other national heroes in chess. But in 1991, Judith stole all the spotlight by breaking a record. As if she was in the interview room when Bobby Fischer was spewing those hate comments. She broke a record by becoming the youngest human to become a Grandmaster in 1991. What is even more fascinating about this record is that she could have broken it a year earlier, as she stated in her interview.
It was very special as I broke Fischer's record with that achievement, being the youngest Grandmaster at the time. But I knew it already then that I could have probably done it a year earlier or a year and a half, because I was very, very close already to achieve that title. So that was a fantastic event for me.
This milestone put to bed all of Fischer's stupid comments about women in chess. But sadly, the chess world was still male-dominated and would show once again that they have not learned their lesson when it comes to the power of women in chess. Judith's milestone stirred things up. A lot of male players had opinions on her play. She became the center of attention. She attracted comments like she was too young or too reckless. Being a woman did not help her case at all. Rather than individuals to praise her for what she had done, criticism did not stop flowing. The worst of it all, it came straight from the top. The world number one himself had something to say, and it was kind of like what Fischer said about women during his time. In a 1990 interview, Garry Kasparov launched an extraordinary attack on a 14-year-old Judit. In his words, Garry Kasparov said, "It is inevitable that nature will work against her, and very soon. She has fantastic chess talent, but she is, after all, a woman. It all comes down to the imperfections of the feminine psyche. No woman can sustain a prolonged battle. She will never be a great Grandmaster." As if that is not enough, the news that she became a GM made people send glances of insincerity towards her parents. Judith's parents, because of their daughter's success, faced a barrage of criticisms too. People called their home a toxic breeding ground for chess prodigies. They were accused of keeping Judith and her sisters out of traditional schools, forcing them to play chess for endless hours, which felt like torture. The community's regime in their country also saw their intensely individualistic approach as anti-socialist, while Western observers labeled it as outright child neglect and cruelty. Amidst all of this, their father tried as hard to keep this negativity around his child, but it only increased as papers and articles were being released on their family. Polgar had to bite the bullet. He had conversations with Judith and her sisters to be strong, so the comments and fame would not take a toll on them. At this point, it felt like all his investments were about to vanish into thin air. The question was, could she handle the pressure to play amongst men? And could she handle the hostile comments that would be thrown at her as she continued her career, which was nothing but promising? At 12, she won the big international chess tournament in London, which made her the first female to win the World Mixed Challenge against many Grandmasters. More jaw-dropping was that at only 11, she beat her first Grandmaster, the 42-year-old Latvian Lev Gutman, who after the game was very upset and could not help himself but hit his head after the loss. The record she had broken at that very young age indicated she was destined for greatness. But many people still wonder if her femininity would kick in, because in chess, it was not only about what you have learned, but how to handle pressure as well. Doubters still stood their ground that although it was possible for a woman to reach the peak of chess if she put in the hours, but it was not possible to reach the top of chess because women do not have the zeal to stomach the pressure it took to get and stay at the top like men. These were questions begging and pleading for answers, but clarification to all these uncertainties and unanswered questions did not take long to appear. It was 1994, the long-anticipated confrontation. It was at the Linares International Chess Tournament in Spain. Judit got her first chance to take on Garry Kasparov. She lost the game, but it was a controversial one for Kasparov because at a point during the game, Kasparov made a mistake.
Kasparov made a mistake, a blunder, and he released his hand from the piece, but only from a fraction of a second.
In chess, the rule says that if you release your hand, no matter for how long, then you cannot touch the piece again and move it to somewhere else.
That mistake of Kasparov's, if someone had seen it, could have brought you back into the game. Why didn't you speak up?
Well, I was kind of shy and I didn't understand the situation, what I should really do. I'm only 17 years old. Am I want to claim that he made an illegal move? Or because probably it would have been rejected anyway, and then I would not be able to prove it.
But Kasparov moved the piece back to the initial square, but no one said anything. Judith's critical mistake was not recognizing her opportunity to challenge Garry Kasparov's foul, largely due to her naive and fragile nature. Many would even argue that, ironically, her femininity proved to be her downfall. Had she possessed the assertiveness typically associated with masculinity, she would have seized the chance to turn the game around. This outcome early validated Garry Kasparov's controversial claim that women lack the competitive edge to succeed at the highest level, a prophecy he inadvertently benefited from. Fast forward 7 years later, Judith was back for the same competition to play against Garry Kasparov. Although she did not get the win she wanted, she gave a tough fight.
When I was playing this game, my focus was that I will attack his king aggressively. No matter what happens on the chessboard, I will stick to my plan. At one point, he started to feel uncomfortable, and he took off his jacket, put it on the chair, took off his watch, put it next to the chessboard. And from his body language, it was obvious that he didn't feel good at all. I even had the feeling for a fraction of a second that he had it in mind that maybe he might even lose the game.
She drew 2 games against Garry Kasparov. Judith beat him at his own game. She used a strategy specifically designed to counter Garry, basically throwing his own tactics back in his face. It was his own preparation system against him. Those games, they weren't just draws. They were huge for her confidence and a real victory. Even though they were victories in her book, she knew deep down if she wanted to silence the doubters completely, she would have to do the unthinkable by defeating Garry Kasparov. It was a no-brainer. But the issue is Garry was not just any player. He was the best player in the world. Not only is winning against Kasparov is hard, getting to play Kasparov is as well hard. But luckily for her, she got a chance a year later. The day of reckoning had finally arrived. Judit Polgar, the young Hungarian chess prodigy, was about to face off against the reigning world champion, Garry Kasparov. For Judith, this match was more than just a game. It was a validation of her father's unorthodox experiments. Polgar had risked everything to prove that his daughters could be molded into geniuses through dedicated practice. If Judith lost to Kasparov, it would be a crushing blow to her father's theory. The critics would pounce, declaring that Polgar's methods were flawed and that his daughter's successes were just a fluke. But for Kasparov, the stakes were just as high. He had publicly declared that women were inherently inferior to men when it came to chess, citing their feminine psyche as a limitation. If he lost to Judith, it would be a devastating blow to his ego and reputation. The chess world would definitely ridicule him, and his chauvinistic remarks would come back to haunt him. The tension was palpable as the two players sat down at the board. Kasparov, known for his intimidating stare, glared at Judit with a mixture of confidence and curiosity. Judit, on the other hand, seemed calm and focused, her eyes fixed intently on the board. The crowd held its collective breath as the game began. The world was watching, and the stakes were higher than ever. Would Judit prove her father's theory and shatter Garry Kasparov's ego? Or would the Russian champion emerge victorious and validate his sexist remarks? The battle of wits had begun, and only one could emerge victorious. The match ended with Judit delivering the decisive blow. She systematically dismantled Kasparov. The victory signaled the end of Russia's long-held dominance in chess.
This game gave me a lot of energy and strength to fight in my upcoming tournaments, events, competitions, and I fought myself into the top 10. Practice, perseverance, and passion. These are key elements of my success.
Beating him, especially in a rapid game, was a very huge moment, Judit said, finally validating her place among the elite. The chess world, including the top players and authorities, could no longer deny her abilities. Even Kasparov, in his autobiography, considered his previous error. The Polgars proved there are no inherent limitations to their aptitude. He wrote, acknowledging that many male players, himself included, had refused to believe until they were unceremoniously crushed by a 12-year-old with a ponytail. The story of the Polgar sister is a testament to the power of dedication, hard work, and a willingness to challenge societal norms. Judit's victory over Garry Kasparov marked a turning point in the chess world, proving that women can indeed compete at the highest level. The Polgars' achievements have inspired generations of chess players, and their legacy continues to shape the game till today. But despite the progress made, there is still one lingering question. Do we really need a separate women's title in chess? Haven't the Polgar sister proven that women can be just as good as men? In this next video on your screen, I'm going to explore this topic further, examining the arguments for and against scrapping the women's title. Join us as we delve into the world of chess and what it means to be a champion regardless of gender. Meet me in the next video on your screen. Please do like, share, and subscribe. Bye.